Hello, and welcome to the Behavior Education Connection, the podcast that works to connect the world of behavior analysis and the world of education. We focus on topics important to behavior analysts who work in the public schools and those who support them. Join us and spend time gaining insights and ideas as our host talks with fellow behavior analysts as well as other experts in the field.
Hello, welcome back to the Behavior Education Connection. I'm your host, Dr. Selena Layden, and I am excited to have my returning guest, Dr. Haley Mullins. Hi, Haley.
Good morning, Selena. Good to be here.
I'm so glad to have you back. Can you, for our listeners who may not have heard your previous episodes, can you introduce yourself?
Right. So I am currently the Director of Early Childhood and Special Education in Winchester, so Region 4 in Virginia, the Northern Virginia area. I previously worked in a variety of special education teaching and administrative roles in Campbell County, so Central Virginia, where I originally obtained my BCBA. My primary areas of focus include verbal behavior and then also dabbling in some organization behavior management, specifically related to the recruitment and retention of licensed special education teachers.
Nice. Well, I'm excited to have you back. We always have a good time when we're together. Today, we're specifically going to be talking about school-based behavior analysts and that tier 2, tier 3 area, but really a lot about the alignment across a school district. And so before we jump into that, I think we need to give a little background to our listeners to the framework that you all have kind of adopted up there. And so the framework that we're going to be talking about is the I'm Determined framework. So can you share a little bit about what that is?
Absolutely. So the I'm Determined framework is unique to Virginia, in which we really support a spirit of self-determination for students with disabilities. When we're looking at the framework, we are looking at all elements of self-determination, ranging from choice making to problem solving to self-advocacy, in an effort to ensure that all of our students with disabilities, by the time that they graduate or exit programming with our division, that they are able to employ these elements of self-determination in order to get their needs met and then be successfully independent in whatever life journey they should choose. So the I'm Determined project in Virginia, which is now the I'm Determined Center, has a great website for reference, imdetermined.org, that has an overview of the framework, as well as an overview of the elements of self-determination and additional resources. And that really serves as the basis and foundation for the work that we do in Winchester.
Yeah, and just to add, it is a Virginia initiative, but the resources on their website are free and open to anyone. So I definitely encourage people to check it out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So with that, you have taken this position of leadership and you have realized, probably not realized, probably all already knew, but that behavior is a concern. And so kind of what were the steps that you decided that needed to happen in order to address some of this?
Right. So in the leadership work that I do, I work directly at the executive cabinet level with all other department directors and leads. And one of the roles that I always seek is to seek areas of alignment of our work. We have to believe that in order to gain behavior momentum, whether it's from a key initiative or an individual student outcome, that when we are all aligned in our work, we are able to be much more efficient and effective. And then our stakeholders, whether that is a student, a family member, a community member, a teacher, a staff member, they are also able to then see a transparent and continuous vision from all departments. So that's just one of my leadership values, is always seeking that alignment across departments. No surprise to those of you that are in the field of behavior analysis and behavior change, that really in public schools, the need for this assumed support for behavioral needs is just ongoing. And whether it's a mental health need, whether it's a challenging or interfering behavioral need, there is this constant and perpetual need for behavior supports for staff and for students. And as a result, we were seeing a lot of trends, which are probably very similar to other schools and divisions that are listening, that while special education, we are hearing about all these needs for behavior supports for students and then the capacity building for staff. Our other departments were addressing those same needs too. So namely our student services department that supports our counselors, they support our general students who do not have disabilities, and they were seeing some of the exact same capacity building needs and student behavior support needs that we were in special education. So that was really my entry point of forming an alignment of what do we bring together as a team, and what are the trends that we're seeing collectively, as opposed to it just being, oh, what are the trends with students with disabilities and behavioral needs versus what are the trends in the general student population. I think as leaders, the more that we are able to align our work, again, the more effective and efficient that we can be. And then ultimately, we're embracing the spirit of the high leverage practice of collaboration, right?
Yeah, and I think there's a very behavior analytic foundation there, right? When we have big systems, looking at where are our areas of overlap and where are our gaps of services, whatever those may be. And in this case, you were specifically looking at student behavior supports. All right, so you identified that the gaps and the overlaps existed, I'm assuming. And so then what happened? How did you pull in this I'm determined framework? And why did you make the decision that that was a good framework to pull in?
Absolutely. So once our interdepartments recognized that there were extreme overlap in the needs for staff and students beyond that of just students with disabilities or just students in the general population, we did create just a work group that was a very naturally and organic occurring work group to say no one's making us check a box that we met. No one's requiring us to have an agenda. This isn't in some strategic plan, but it's just in the best interest of the work that we're all doing to maximize our efficiency. And within that group, we identified our most critical areas of alignment were for, yes, our students with disabilities that had individualized education plans. That was one area or framework that we could operate in. But commensurate with that, in the general education side, we happen to be a tiered system of support division. So we approach intervention and support from tier 1, which is accessible to all and across the board, tier 2, which is a little bit more intensive and alternate, and then tier 3, which is much more intensive as far as need and whether that's academic or behavioral. So we were looking at that those tier 2 and tier 3 intervention needs aligning somewhat with the same needs as some of our students with disabilities via the IEP process. I think that it's really important to note that the division, we clearly identify that tier 2 and tier 3 intervention is not the same as specially designed instruction, but for the purpose of us establishing streamlined support systems and frameworks, those were our most comparative operating buckets, if you will, that we could use. So once we started zoning in on the trends in our IEP support needs and our tier 2 and tier 3 needs, we then identified that what we envision for all of these students is a spirit of self-management, intentional engagement in choice making in their educational environment in order to engage in meaningful educational behaviors. So we started initially with 2 of the resources with the I'm Determined projects, specifically the Good Day Plan and the Goal Setting Plan. And those became really tangible elements that we could easily give to any team that's incorporating an IEP for behavioral change needs or a tier 2 or tier 3 intervention. Specifically, the I'm Determined Good Day Plan is just a structured one-pager that allows a student to reflect on, when do you have a good day? You and I both know that there are things that we intentionally do each morning that set us up for success. For me, that's having a cup of coffee, getting up with enough time so that I don't feel rushed, making sure that I exercise in the morning. And I know that if I don't engage in a couple of those things, then guess what? I'm most likely to not have a super successful day, or at least as successful of a day as I could. Our students are the exact same way. By teaching them through this one pager to reflect on what is it that you need to do to have a good day? Who is it that can help you? And then what are the outcomes of that good day? We're then giving students control. And we as behavior analysts know that that's ultimately the function of any behavior, right? Each of us want to feel in control of our environment. And whether that's through the special education process, IEP supports, or level 2 tier or tier 3 supports in an MTSS and PBIS framework, ultimately, we really want to make sure that our students are in control first, of their learning behavior, but ultimately of their learning in general. And so the Good Day Plan allowed us to really use that as a piece of common language across the two systems. Likewise, the goal setting plan was a similar framework. We know that in John Hattie's work, so looking at what maximizes student outcomes, goal setting is one of the biggest things that we can do as educators that allows our students to maximize their instructional success. And through the Undetermined project, the goal setting one pager, again, gives a structured format of allowing a student to identify what their goals are, how they're going to achieve that goal, but then also who's going to help them with it. It's not just something that's solely the student's ownership, but something that the student can use to then engage in meaningful collaboration with those around that they believe can support them. So again, these were two quick wins. They were one pagers. They're not super complex. They could be implemented with teams tomorrow. But it was something that we could all align with in order to support that continuity across the division and across departments.
So, Haley, I'm starting to wonder, and I'm betting our listeners might be too, well, I'm a school-based behavior analyst, but I might not be in the same level of a leadership role that you're currently in. Or even if I am, what are some considerations for how I might be able to make these kinds of changes, or I might be able to better align the systems in my district?
Yeah. And I think that that's such a great point, Selena. What was beautiful about this, approach with the division is that, again, this wasn't something that was mandated. My superintendent didn't require that we have a behavior team meeting. It's not something that we're using as any type of formalized metric as far as our division output, but rather this was just in the spirit of supporting kids. And I would encourage any behavior analyst listening, regardless of whether you are in a classroom, at the classroom level or at a school level, you all have those meaningful points of input and contact where you can say, man, if we just did this, this would be in the best interest of kids. And so I really encourage anyone listening on the line just to really sit back and reflect on the systems that they do have overlap with. From the teaching lens, that might be coordinating with a general education teacher to promote some inclusion practices and utilizing some of these more tier 2, tier 3 frameworks. It might be as simple as being in the teacher lounge and listening to a colleague that's just perhaps having some challenges with an individual student or student group in their classroom and saying, hey, I have this really interesting framework that might be able to help you. I can just print you out a copy and it's not a big deal. So I encourage us to always remember that some of the most meaningful systems change actually doesn't start with a full system. It just starts with a motivation to listen and hear a message. I reflect often on this with my team that we could have the most beautifully worked strategic plan that could have beautifully outlined this particular Undetermined framework and really this the logistics of I'm Determined. But that doesn't then get to the spirit of I'm Determined, right? Which is collaboration and promoting self-determination for student outcomes. And so I think that we're all organically in a variety of systems on a day-to-day basis. So reflecting on the systems that you're already a part of, and then just being very open to the natural opportunities and the natural motivating operations of those that you support. It might be a TA that's having a really challenging day. And as a result of that challenge, they may be receptive to an individual strategy. It might be a PLC that is reviewing data trends regarding a group of student behaviors that are really impacting instructional time. What are those trends? What are those systems? And how can you just tap into the motivating operations of those systems and of those staff members that are within the system?
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. And I think a lot of it just starts with identification of opportunity, right? Just being able to say, huh, I noticed this, and what can I do about it? And to your point, it doesn't have to be from the superintendent down or the special ed director down or whatever. It can definitely be a grassroots thing too. And I tend to find in schools when good things happen in pockets, those good things spread.
Yep. That one critical conversation, whether it be in passing or whether it be in a smaller formal meeting setting, when done well and when it's you know uh, reinforced and when it's met with that right fit of the motivating operations of like, wow, this is really valuable and this was really impactful for me today, it's more likely to be replicated. And then it just keeps replicating and replicating and replicating. And that's what we found here. And ultimately, that really allows us as behavior analysts to be more authentic leaders. We're not doing this as a result of a directive, as the result of something on a task list or, any other spirit other than just having some really critical technologies at our disposal that can be of benefit to everyone. So I think that there's a spirit of authenticness that allows us to be more approachable when we approach leadership in more of that grassroots lens.
Yeah, I love that. So Haley, before we sign off, is there anything else that you want to share with us?
Never underestimate the power of your leadership where you are. The most positional titles often do not have the greatest leadership capabilities for a variety of reasons. And we know that wherever we are considered leaders as behavior analysts. And the use of our powerful technology can really be of great support, not only to students and families, but also staff. So never underestimate the power of your leadership where you are right now.
What a great note to end on. I really appreciate that. And Haley, as always, I really appreciate you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Selena.
And to our listeners, we will see you on our next episode.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Behavior Education Connection. Join us next time for another great conversation about behavior analysis in the schools. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on an episode. Sending out a special thanks to the Virginia Department of Education for supporting our work. We look forward to connecting with you all again soon.